So today in Insiders Talk, we are going to talk tennis, we are going to talk sports writing, and we are going to talk much more with Haresh Ramchandani. So welcome Haresh to Insiders Talk. Finally, we get to, sit and have the podcast.
So, Veronica, really excited to be here and thank you for inviting me to this podcast as well.
So how did you get into it and, what interested you to, have this kind of a career option as well?
Sure. So, actually, I do a lot of tennis writing mostly, and I've been obsessed with tennis as a kid. I think since the late 80s, when I was 9 or 10, I started watching tennis on TV, uh, and then I started playing on the wall. So I've just been obsessed with the sport. I never really played it properly, never really did journalism or whatever like that. I was always obsessed with the sport, started playing at some point, and when my writing out there happened sort of by accident. One of my friends was an editor at that time. She's still a writer. She was editing a magazine called Mother and Baby and Parent and Child at that point of time. This was, I think, in 2010. And since she knew I liked tennis a lot, and she said, I'm looking for somebody to write a piece on how to introduce tennis to their kids. And would you write it for us? I was like, fine, I'm happily doing it. I'll happily do it. And you tell me if it's good enough or not. So I sent it to her. They liked it. It got published, and I really wasn't expecting anything out of it. But like after a week or two, she sent me a check for the writing, and it was a couple of thousand rupees at that point of time. And I was like, wow, I wasn't really expecting anything. So to get like 3-4 thousand bucks at that point of time was great, and I thought I should try and look for more opportunities to do this. So that was how it started. After that, I started consciously looking out for websites that cover tennis and apply to them, and write for them. And I was always working in a corporate job in finance. I did this in my free time in the mornings, nights, weekends. It was just a thrill to try and kind of make sort of a part-time career out of tennis. It's been a dream of mine to do something with tennis since I was a kid, and so I've just taken it from there. That was how it started, and I'm trying to build on that alongside my professional corporate career. That's how it started, actually.
That's really nice. And sometimes when something starts organically, just like that and out of passion, it really works out very well. And I think you're a classic example for that.
True. I think, yeah. I mean, yeah. If you ask me to write about tennis in the middle of the night or in the middle of the morning, my weekends, I'm happy to give away that time to that. And yeah. So I've been consciously looking to do those kind of things and opportunities within tennis. I think I've done decently in terms of writing for a few different websites in a few different publications. So yeah. I mean, I'm just happy that it's come this far, and it's just. I think to make a sort of a career out of your passion is the best thing that I could think about, and I would advise that to anybody who would, if they have a passion, to try to turn it into a career in whichever way possible.
That's really lovely. I mean, finance and sports writing are absolutely two different genres altogether, and you've managed to do both, so that's quite commendable. So Harish, you are working in a corporate job already, right? And that's quite taxing because I know corporate job takes a hell lot of time, and even sometimes your weekends get eaten away based on what project you are in, and you are writing as well, which is also time consuming, and you need that space, the creative space as well. So how do you balance both of this and make sure that none of it is getting affected based on what kind of a work pressure you have on either side?
I think I just kind of I know obviously at my corporate job I know my work hours that are there, so I know as well as I know the tennis schedule in terms of the tournaments and all, in where the tournaments are and what time zone, and so what I would want to write about. So I do kind of keep that in mind when I'm taking up writing assignments for tennis, as to would I be able to cover it in a particular tournament or not. The other thing is, I think my company and my boss especially is very supportive of. He knows my passion. When he hired me, I was actually freelancing at that point of time, doing just writing. And when he interviewed me, he said, "I know you like tennis a lot, so I'm happy that you continue it as long as you manage your work somehow or the other. Your time. I don't need you like X time to X time, but if you figure out your schedule, you just get the work done that you would normally do in 8-9 hours a day." So he's quite supportive of that. Yeah, and I think that sometimes you adjust it a bit based on what's there in either office or in my writing stuff. But I think that applies to anybody, like anybody who has another priority in life, or another goal, like whether it's your family, whether it's another passion that you have, like dancing, or uh, I don't know. Some people do other stuff as well, the singing, and probably there's some corporate guys who I know are really good dancers, singers, and they follow that passion. So it's just like another priority for me. And I try to kind of compartmentalize it. Sometimes it does overlap. I guess it does with everybody in the corporate world as well. There are a lot of parents in the corporate world who kind of adjust their priorities. So I just try to look at it as that, and my boss is supportive, so that's a big help as well.
Oh, that's really nice to know, when your boss also supports what you do. Probably he's also a tennis fan, I feel. And he would be waiting for you to write the next piece so that, he understands, what's coming next. So I think the same thing flows from you to your juniors as well, where they understand that they have that openness and transparency where they can come to you and say, like, this is what we want to pursue. And probably they try to take advice from you, how to manage their time between, turning their hobby into something more meaningful and still keeping their corporate job, because that is how they keep their lives running and get the luxuries in.
Yeah, so actually that hasn't happened in my current company right now, because I
Mhm.
think it's a small company. It's about just 20 of us. It's a startup, my current organization. But it has happened with people on LinkedIn. I think I've connected with some younger guys, do connect with me and say, we just want to understand how did you kind of take this up, how we should go about it. And that feels nice if you're giving advice to somebody's asking for advice. It felt a little nice, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm the right person to advise you, but I'll share my experience, and if that helps you, that's fine. So yeah, I mean, a few people did ping me on LinkedIn and said, we're writing about sports, and do you think we should continue, and how should we kind of make it more full fledged and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I try to answer their queries through my experience if I can. That's nice.
So just wanted to figure out, what's your style of writing? Is it like, you put in your opinions based on the matches that have been played, or you state the facts and then just put in your, comments, and you feel that this should have been done or that should have been done. So what's your style of writing when it comes to tennis?
So I think again it depends on what with website I'm working on, and what the editor's requirements are there. Typically around tournaments, it's more match reports, which are typically factual, around what happened in the match, how did the match flow, who was leading, how did they come back, things like that. So it's more factual. And then obviously opinion pieces are there. If I feel strongly about a topic and I think I have a certain thought about it, then I like to make it an opinion piece. So yeah, that would typically be after the match. Maybe something about the match triggered some kind of thought or idea, or something that's happening in the tennis world. Is I feel like writing strongly about it. That I try to make it an opinion piece. Otherwise, if it's more at the tournament time, during the tournament, then typically more match reports, more factual, and try to keep it as unbiased. Although I have my favorites, I try to keep it as unbiased as possible without using too many adjectives for my favorite players.
Yeah, I know for one that Steffi Graf has been your favorite, because I've been told you were a huge, huge fan. So
Still,
I can understand. I myself was a huge fan of Steffi Graf. I think after her, I have this problem. If I like somebody, then I become like, okay, if they've retired, it is something very difficult for me to follow. But, beyond that, in today's times, who is your favorite player at the moment?
so, like you said, I found it difficult to like anybody as much as Steffi Graf. I think the emotion, either the joy or the sadness when she won or lost, I've not been able to replicate that with any other player. I think Federer came the closest to it when Roger Federer was playing. A huge, huge fan, but still not at Steffi Graf's level, but maybe Roger Federer after that. Always a big fan of Sania Mirza because I found similar passion there because Indian tennis. I would dream of an Indian woman playing, or Indian man or woman playing on the regular circuit and Grand Slams. And she's the one, at least when I was growing up, the first one to do it consistently, get to the Grand Slams. She got to top 30 in singles, number one in doubles. So I was a big fan of hers as well, still am. Yeah, so among the current players, I like Yannick Sinner a lot. Uh, I'm on the Sinner side, not on the Alcaraz side. Between those two, I like Daniel Medvedev. I like Casper Ruud. Among the men, among the women, we're not very strong personal favorites, but yeah, like Coco Gauff is nice. She's done great for herself. I think she's a very nice player. The way she speaks. Naomi Osaka is somebody else I really maybe look up to and admire for all that she's kind of been through, the way she's stood up for things. in her personal life about mental health, Black Lives Matter, coming back from motherhood. So I think those two are my favorites among the women at this point.
Oh, that's amazing. And one thing is really striking is that you have similarity with Andrea Gassi. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm a Steffi Graf fan, and now I'm feeling that probably you have, or
So the
maybe it's
ball,
the hairstyle. I
the
don't
ball,
know, but I feel that you do look quite similar to him. Something that you might
I,
have tried to look something
I,
more of a close to
I'll take
Steffi
that as
Graf,
a
I
compliment.
guess.
I think I was a big fan of his as well. When he
Oh
was playing, he was
yes.
my favorite male player. And when Graf and Agassi, got together, that was like seeing your two best friends get together. I think for
True.
me. So yeah, I mean, I'll take that as a compliment if you think I have
Oh
to
no,
get.
definitely. I just adore the couple, and I adore the way Agassi plays. To be really frank, and the kind of competition that he used to, sorry, get onto the court. And now also when you see him play those exhibitional matches, you see that competitive edge in him, that he's still trying to prove that he's still relevant, not somebody who is just retired and doing stuff.
Yeah, I was actually fortunate enough to watch their exhibition match in last month in Romania, where
Oh.
Graf and Agassi were both playing an exhibition match at Romania. So I've never seen Steffi Graf play. I've seen Agassi in a book signing before, and I got an autograph of his, but I'd never seen Steffi Graf play before. Never met her. So there was an exhibition in Romania last month in June. When I heard that it's happening, I planned a whole Europe trip around that, bought tickets, was there for the exhibition match. There was a masterclass discussion with them the next day. Attended that, got to ask her a question one on one in an auditorium. So that was fantastic. Yeah, and Agassi is still very good when he plays, very good speaking. Hearing him talk about life and stuff like that was fantastic. So yeah, I'm a big fan, still a big fan of both.
Now I'm jealous. Genuinely, I'm jealous. But yeah, I'll keep that aside, because if we keep talking about that, I think it will never end. But because you've seen tennis, like from Steffi Graf now to the youngsters who have come in. What do you see the major change that is happening on the tennis circle?
I think in terms of the game, it's become a lot more powerful. The power that the men and women hit with, it's a lot different from when you were seeing Agassi, Sampras, Becker, and those guys that I grew up watching. Just the amount of physical power that they hit with is a lot more. The technology is different. The racket strings, the racket heads. I'm not such a big follower of the technology kind of things in it that happen. I don't really get into that, but it's obvious that the racket technology has improved a lot, which makes it easier for players to hit with power. Serve and volley has become a lot less relevant these days in terms of style of play. It's more baseline hitting. In terms of off the court, I think the way people deal with fame, pressure, social media is a way lot different compared to what was there in the 80s and 90s when those guys faced not the scrutiny of social media that the current players face. Yeah, so I think those are the few ways that I think it's really drastically changed for the players.
Mm. That's true, because social media has its own good and bad, I feel. I mean, yes, you do have exposures, but then there is always a other side of the coin, right, which you don't like at all. Now, but when it comes to sports journalism, right, it's not anymore longer having a published article or a column in the paper or a magazine. It's all about, you can yourself have a website ready and become somebody who can comment on any sport. So do you think even this is one of the key factors which is pushing youngsters, to get into journalism, especially people who are sports enthusiasts, but don't have the talent to actually achieve, in whatever respective sports they want to. And do you see that there is also an increase in the people who want to genuinely, I would use the word genuinely, write about tennis as well from India?
Um, I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. I don't know too many others as well. I know the people I work with at websites. Like I write for Sportskeeda. I know the guys who write there. But obviously, tennis is still not as popular as some of the other bigger sports in India. But I think just the avenues that are there now, there are so many more websites available online. With remote work, you can work for a global website. I write for one website which is based in France. And like you said, social media, with social media and the internet, I can put out my own blog there. I can put out my own analysis on a video and post it on social media. If I'm good at some point, it would get noticed, and you could create your own following online as well. So in that way, it is good. And at least the options are there when I see that if I was at 20 now, I think I could have. I didn't realize I could have made a career out of tennis writing when I was 20. But if I was 20
Right.
now, I think I could have made it a career from the beginning and probably got a journalism degree and try to use that to complement my tennis writing and stuff like that. So I think just seeing the exposure around in the different avenues, it's definitely a lot more possible, more likely, and more probable that you could do it. So that's good in a way.
Yeah, and other than the fact that, like you said, right, now because the mindset is also changing. It is not just about having a hardcore career that you want to like. In our days, it was IT boom was there, so everybody wanted to be a computer engineer and get into somehow get into any IT field. Now the things have changed. There are a lot more options, and even parents are open, and kids are too open to try everything early on to figure out whether this is something that they can be successful in. So, according to you, based on your experience, because you came in something organically, a friend of yours reached out to you, you prepared a column on, about tennis for a mother and baby magazine. And from there on, things started rolling for you. So, according to your experience, what are the key things that any youngster who wants to get into any kind of sports writing needs to keep in mind, other than the fact that they have a degree? But I think experience teaches you a lot, and there are some tricks and tips that you can probably give, which I think the textbooks can't. So, if you could share something with our listeners.
Sure. I think one is just if you keep following the sport, you keep watching it. The more you follow it, the more you see the sport that you're interested in. You'll just become more knowledgeable about the sport and the nuances of the sport organically. So if it helps, if you keep watching more, I mean, I've watched a lot of tennis all my life, so just by doing that, I think I learned a lot about the sport, the players. I would say that. In terms of writing, I like to read what other writers have read, just to know how they perceive things, the language that they use, how they kind of flow their articles, how they started, ended. Maybe study a bit of that to see, how should a good article be written from by an experienced writer. So I think studying that, learning a few other tricks. I mean, I think just doing something topical, if you know what's happening in the tennis world or whichever sport you're following, something that's very trending and current, hot topic. If you write on that, you're likely to get more views, more kind of traction on that. SEO is a big part of being online. So if you know some SEO tricks like what keywords to use, that helps if it's an online article. I think being particular about writing, I think language and editing, it helps. Obviously, I'm sure you'll be good at the language, but also certain words that you use. I mean, there are a lot of things that I did not know related to writing that I know now because my articles are being edited. Um, how they edited, make crisper, shorter sentences, don't use the same word twice in a sentence, which I now actually use in my corporate life as well. I mean, that helps me a lot when I'm drafting emails or presentations. I kind of put that to use. So I think, yeah, just keep following the sport that you're writing on. Keep learning from whatever chances you get around you, and also I think if you just keep writing at it, you get better over time. I mean, now things flow much more organically for me when I have to write something as compared to maybe 10 years back when I started. The more you do it, the more better you get at it, I think.
Yeah, that's really true because then you get the habit. I mean, you get into the habit of writing first of all. If you don't have the habit of writing, plus you get the habit of actually following things of what you want to write. So one thing that really struck me was when you said that you need to look into what other people are also writing, because then you understand at what level the audience is also trying to read, and what kind of content they really want. But in today's day and time, you have Chat GPT. That really gives you the list of things that you would really, it would strike out well, But still, I feel, I don't know, if you're a genuine writer, you need to put whatever is there in your head into those specific words rather than putting few keywords in the Chat GPT. So do you think this is going to make a difference, in the sense it's going to dilute the way people write it, because now they just enter the keywords and everybody knows, everybody can be a writer because they have an automated sidebar right next to them. Okay, today I want to blog about this. So, XYZ, just put the names, just put the keywords, and then they have the list.
Uh, I think that would work in a place if you want like some automated articles. If you just need some kind of automated content for your website where you need like certain kind of art, like SEO related stuff. If you want SEO blogs and stuff like that, But I think if I mean to a perceptible reader of any sport, if you give them an article by an individual writer and a ChatGPT article, I think he'll make out the difference between the two.
True.
It's a very different kind of tone that's used from a ChatGPT article or an automated system. We do have some automated systems in sports as well now, which will give you a match result kind of article, news article, and as soon as the match is over, when they'll say player X beat player Y at this so and so at this tournament, they will. So I mean that kind of stuff. But if you read a same match report by a writer, you can just make out the difference. So there was, in fact, just to that point, Wimbledon recently was when they
Yes.
had their tournament this year. They used artificial intelligence for some of the reports on the website, and there were glaring errors, and the language they used was just so robotic that they got trolled online a lot. Everybody could make out that it was written by AI, not by a human person, and it didn't really go down well with a lot of the fans for the biggest tournament in the world. So I don't think it'll replace it, but maybe for some automated content it might work, but not otherwise. I think.
I think you can use it for fine tuning your article because sometimes.
I haven't tried, to be honest, so I haven't used ChatGPT much. I haven't tried it,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are ways that will help, but I don't know. I'm not. I think I'll make out the difference between a ChatGPT article and a
Yeah,
normal.
definitely. I'll tell you why I put this forward was like because it happened to me recently. I had a connection request on LinkedIn, and he wrote something about thank you for accepting my invite, and I got in touch with so and so reason and all that, and I genuinely answered it back, and the first response on my response was that, oh, thank God you have not used any automated messaging because probably he's getting that sounds interesting, thank you for reaching out. So
Correct.
I think now people are finding it something fresh that somebody is actually taking time to give a response by writing rather than clicking on the options that are being provided to you.
I agree. I mean, I'm guilty of that on LinkedIn myself, where when it's somebody's anniversary of their work and stuff like
Yeah,
that, or job updates, you typically say congrats, it's just an automated thing,
correct,
congrats or whatever.
correct.
But if it's somebody I know really well, then I will put in a few extra lines, and you can make out the difference. So yeah, I think we've all done that. So yeah, it is much better when it's personalized than when it's coming from yourself rather than one of those auto tools that are there on those LinkedIn sites or other sites.
That's really great. And there are it is just it's so difficult at times to put your thoughts in proper words and put it out there. Some people like to use very high end words, which probably people will have to open the dictionary or start Google searching. And the classic example for that is Shashi Tharoor. I have absolutely no idea at times what words he is using, and then in the end, if I have to actually understand what he's talking, I have to keep pausing him every now and then and keep a dictionary on the side to figure out what exactly the words he's trying to use and what is the meaning of that. So when it comes to your style of writing, do you like to keep it simple where everybody can understand? And like Sudha Murthy says, like I know basic English, I know how to communicate, and that is what you will see in my books. There'll be no high-end words where people will find it difficult. Anybody who knows English can actually understand the stories that I'm writing. So is your style more like that, or is it a mix of Shashi Tharoor and Sudha Murthy?
I think I'm definitely not Shashi Tharoor level, anywhere close to that. So yeah, I mean, there's some words I've realized myself. I don't know if I should be saying this on public platform, but when I use them in a sentence, I'm able to use it correctly. But if you ask me the exact meaning of that word, the dictionary meaning, I mean, I don't. I mean, sometimes I'm wrong, but I'll use it very correctly in a sentence. So I try to stay away from like these fancy words. I think I write how I speak. So if I'm speaking about a match, that's where I write it. So I speak very normal, average or little above average English, and I would use those kind of words. I don't try to make it very fancy. There are some terms if I read somewhere and I think they're nice, I try to use them in articles. But those are like just nice, fancy, not fancy, but nice terms that I would read somewhere that I like to use. It's like this is a nice kind of term to describe something, but not otherwise. I don't, I wouldn't know the words like Shashi Tharoor uses as well. So I try to keep it because I think in those words, I think I write it just how I think.
Oh, that's nice to hear because I find it very difficult myself. I am myself my English is very average, like a normal person can speak. So it is good to see that when I feel the way you think and the way you write, if it goes in sync, it hits you better. Like, as a reader, if I'm reading, then I can really understand what you're trying to say. But if I start coining in words which even I don't know, and I try to just put it just to make it sound intelligent, that I know the language too well, that is where I think people might miss it out. So when you're writing an article, is there a process that you follow? Like, like you first do an outline, like, these are the points I need to incorporate, and this is what the intent of this article is, and this is what I need to cover, and then you go in depth? Or is it something that you decide, like, today I have to write about this, or this is something which the editor wants me to write about, and you just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, close your eyes, meditate, I don't know what all, and figure out what exactly you want to write, and then just go with the flow, and then probably have a look back and see what you've written and make the changes?
So again, if it's an opinion piece, I probably do something where I probably have an outline in my head. I think about it, have an outline about how I want to start, the main points I want to focus on, and then how I want to conclude it. If it's more opinion pieces, if it's a match report, honestly, it's like just watching the match and seeing how the match has gone, and just writing a little more factual. So then it's just actually how trying to follow the match and uh, how it started, how it ended, what are the major points of the match. What were the major kind of critical 2 or 3 points in the highlights. So there's some quotes from players. You tend to use those quotes which are available on public platforms or in the press conferences that they have. So in a match report, honestly, it's not thinking too much. You just kind of see the match, you know what's happened, how it's gone. It kind of flows very easily. For an opinion piece, I would then kind of try to structure it a bit and then put it down. And if it's an interview that I'm doing, that a published interview, then again, I try to think about whether I just want to do a Q&A kind of thing, question answer, put it into a more like an article, which is like a story where the quotes are used in between. Maybe sometimes if it's a very good story about a player and you want to give some background besides just his quotes, then I try to maybe build a story around the quotes and flow it that way. So yeah.
That's quite interesting. So, if I'm a budding writer who has absolutely zero experience in writing anything, so what are the three advices that you would give it to me? That these are the 3 points that you really need to work at first before going ahead and looking out for the job probably as a sports writer.
3 points. I would say, like I said, one is follow the sport, know what's happening, watch a lot of the sport that you want to write on. And I would say start writing anyway, even if you don't have a job uh, yet in that particular sphere. Just start writing a blog about what you think about a particular, like just a match report, for example. Write a blog about it. Maybe share it with some people that you know of who are good at either the sport or good in English and editing to get some feedback. So that way you build at it. Also, that way you have something to show somebody when you apply for a job, because if you're absolutely fresh and you have no experience in that sport, if you send them samples of maybe 10 articles that you might have written over a period of 2-3 months, it gives them something to assess you on other than just blindly going by your CV or by your interviews. So I think even if you have those 10, 15 articles written as a portfolio, you can at least share that. It's easier for somebody to assess, how you would write and your basic writing skills. And I think the other thing that's helped a lot with me is to kind of connect with people and network. You never know what opportunity comes out where if you just network with people either in person through whatever educational institute that you're at or through your family online with LinkedIn, it's easy to connect with people. Just network, you kind of follow them, you read up, you come to know what's happening in their kind of professional life, you get some advice from them, and it helps at some points. I think networking has helped me a lot personally as well in this particular part at least.
Yeah, definitely. Networking was something which many people don't take it, seriously, but it actually gives you a lot of opportunities. Like for me, I wouldn't have come in touch with you if I wouldn't be networking on LinkedIn, to be really frank. So, it's amazing, what interesting people actually you come across through networking, and obviously it can turn out into an opportunity as well to, work together. So, Harish, like you also said that. In India, especially, sports writing in terms of tennis is not that, not everybody is into it. So, according to you, like yes, cricket, I know it's the sport of India, and now slowly, because of PKL, you see Pro Kabaddi League also getting that kind of thankfully, that kind of attention. And then because of Indian players getting into sports, like, and actually achieving a hell lot, like, when it comes to badminton, now tennis also, and other sports. So do you think that slowly it is going to pick up as the years pass by, and people will actually start, looking at writing down and not thinking whether it is popular or not, but just writing down out of passion because they really, really love to follow the sport? I'm talking about Indian writers. I'm not talking about global.
I think it would, but I think also the constraint. I recently spoke to somebody who's in their early 20s, and he was asking the same question: is should I do this as a full time thing? And I said, if you're writing for Indian websites, they don't pay you the best in terms of sports writing. If you work for an international website, they'll pay you better. So, but also to work with an international website, you need some experience to show that you work somewhere. So I think if you're, I mean, it depends on your financial goals that you have. If you really want a fancy house in Bombay and a metro and a fancy car, you probably need to get a job in a corporate. You're not going to get that with a writer's salary. But if you're okay with a more basic lifestyle, minimal lifestyle, then I think you can. And now I think there are popular sports, like you said, kabaddi is there, but there are a lot of Indians who are writing on American sports. They're quite a lot of people are big fans of basketball, soccer, and there are global websites where I know people are writing. The Sportskeeda is very big in terms of these sports. For example, I know they cover the MLB, NHL, NBA, and there are guys sitting in India and writing on them, and they're good. So that could translate into an opportunity with an international website, for example. So yeah, I think you could do it. You could follow your sport. I think also the smaller the niche of the sport, for example, like kabaddi, there are not too many people writing about kabaddi. So now pro kabaddi is doing really well. I mean, if you write about that, I think that's a nice space to be in. There's a Pro Panja League. I mean, I don't know too many people who follow that sport and know about that sport well enough to write about it, but it's doing pretty well. Yeah, so there are all these sports, and you could be the probably the leading kind of voice in that sport. My dream when I started writing was to be like the Harsha Bhogle of Indian tennis, because he was like the one person I knew who was not a sports person, but transitioned into like as important as the players probably in terms of
True.
publicity, in terms of being a public figure. Yeah, so I mean, they could be like that in their respective sports, I think.
True. He's a different kind of a celebrity in that field, though he never actually played in the field. But Harsha Bhogle is somebody that everybody wants to just go and and have a chat with, because of what he, the way he actually, you can actually sense the passion. And if you can sense the passion through the writing, I think you will get followers, and people will start, probably if they're not following the sports, you might actually entice them into, you can actually go follow the sport. It is this interesting. So that is one of the, I think, plus points that you people have, that you can even make a non-follower a follower through your passion.
Yep, hopefully.
Oh, definitely. So thank you, Harish. It was like, it was lovely chatting with you and understanding the kind of mindset that really gets you to write sports. It's not just about just writing. Until and unless you don't have the passion, I don't think you can actually sit down and write a piece, be it opinionated or just be it like, match to match.
I think you might be able to write a match book, but I think over time, I mean, you won't be dedicated enough to really do to become a big, or not big, but a well-known or a really experienced or reputed person in that field. I think to have that, you would need to be a little kind of obsessed about the sport, if you like. I think the same with any kind of movies and music. You need to be a little kind of invested into it to really do well in those fields. Uh, Whereas in a corporate job, you could still do well enough and climb up the ladder, even if you're not really fanatical about your company, I would say.
Correct, because when it comes to corporate job, the first thing that really strikes you is what salary or package you're getting. Tomorrow you get a better package in some other company, you'll jump there. So there's no
True.
passion towards the company. There's more passion towards what is getting into your bank account.
Yep.
Lovely. Thank you, Harish, for your time.
Thank you. Thanks. It was great talking to you, Veronica.